Feels good to be talking about some college football, baby. And because of all the odd coaching decisions in the state of Washington, it's definitely keep my job really interesting as of late. Welcome back, everybody, to the Nick Bartlett Show, and I'm very excited to get to it today. Let's see what we got on the agenda. So, same thing as usual, I'll give you the normal rundown. For those of you who don't know, my name is Nick Bartlett, and I'm the broadcast manager here at Sports Pac-12, as well as a senior writer at OregonSportsNews.com. That's Sports Pac-12. I don't know what happened to my voice there. I've had articles featured in the Seattle PI, on Go Local PDX, and numerous other websites and publications. So, yeah, this is a Sports Pac-12 original, y'all. Do not forget that. Do not forget that. That is important. Sports Pac-12 original. So, on the agenda today, I'll be giving you my take on the Jimmy Lake situation, obviously what a lot of people would call striking a player. After that, I will give you my quick previews of all the games in the conference this week, and we will end today's episode, as always, with Bartlett's random topic of the day. And I think you guys are really going to like this one, especially for some of you who've been with me for a while, my longtime viewers. I think that you're going to be very, very excited about today's Bartlett's random topic of the day. And if you're not, well, whatever. But seriously, guys, thank you for tuning in as always. And yeah, let's get straight to it. So for me, living here in Seattle, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know I'm not a Husky fan, but I do maybe have an inside perspective on the Jimmy Lake situation. And there's just a lot of things that are going into this right now. As always, or per usual, I wrote an article for the other publication I work for. Actually hasn't been released yet, so do have a nice little deep dive and some research here. And for the purposes of this show, I'm going to break it down into 3 simple points. I want to make it simple, I want to make it poignant, and I really want to give you a new light on the situation. I don't like just jumping down a man's throat when we may not know the whole situation yet. I may defend him, I may not, but let's get straight to it. So, the first thing I really want to talk about here, let's make sure I actually get to the first thing here. Oh, guys, for the longtime viewers, because I just did it again, the right-clicking thing happens in real life too. For some reason, I just right-click. I don't know why. Happened at my day job, and I was just super confused. I was like, oh, I guess I do this in real life, not just on the show. Anyways, let's get back to it. So, for the Jimmy Lake incident, the first thing I want to talk about is the comments he made before the Oregon game. And I think all these things lead up to the striking incident, so you'll follow me here. The comments were just odd. They were just odd. I don't understand the purposes. I don't understand why you'd attack Oregon's academic prowess. And to be quite frank, his comments were exaggerated. UW is not a Stanford. They're not. I coach basketball at a school, the high school equivalent of like a Stanford or Harvard. And UW, while they may be close, they're not a Stanford. So that was just a completely irrelevant, exaggerated comment. And then to throw Oregon into like there's some dumb academic institution, because there were the undertones of that comment. I don't know why people are just like scared to say that. That was just a low blow and really irrelevant. It had nothing to do with football. And there's a lot of smart people at every university. There's a lot of people who party. There's a lot of people who work their butts off and study all day and all night, particularly a lot of grad students. So I didn't really understand the purposes of that comment. And the thing is, the only people who are going to pay the price, and especially in a game like football, in basketball, you may be able to get with head coaches may be able to get away with a little bit slick comments like this. But in football, your players are going to be destroyed physically, especially when you're playing a team like Oregon. So I just didn't quite understand why he made a comment. For those of you who don't know right now, the direct quote, essentially, when asked whether the Ducks are the Huskies' biggest recruiting rival, he stated, "Our battles are really, the schools that we go against are way more have academic prowess." I know you guys have probably heard that, but there may be a person out there who somehow missed it. People do have lives out there. So my first thing is just going to be the context. That led up to maybe why people are so angry about the striking incident. It had to do with the comments, and I believe he's had a couple other questionable things. Don't quote me on that, but just very confusing. Why? Like, I don't really understand the purposes. It's not going to help your team, not going to help your reputation. And if anything, Oregon's been known to like lose a big game every once in a while here and there, and instead of maybe catching them sleeping, you're going to wake them up. So just in my opinion, it felt like bad coaching and didn't understand that. Second thing here, for context to consider here, I guess the last thing I did want to say, kind of parachuting off the article I wrote, is as a head coach, and this is correlating with the first thing, essentially, as a head coach, you need to have a higher emotional intelligence. He's not a burner account on Twitter. He can't just say these things. Like, this will come back to haunt him. So that's just the first thing. The second thing, you have to look at the context of the program in its entirety. And they were just so much better 4 years ago under Chris Peterson. And they've taken a terrible downfall. 4-5 is really, maybe in the past in Seattle, acceptable, but as of recent, not acceptable at all. And it hasn't looked good. It has not looked good. I mean, they lost to Oregon State. I know that Oregon State's pretty solid. I believe it's the first time they'd lost to the Beavers in 10 years. I believe this was an article by John Wilner. So just want to make sure he gets that credit. I guess that's probably an exaggerated credit. But 10 years, just want to make sure that fact is credited to Wilner. No disrespect, didn't mean like exaggerated credit, but just roll off the tongue there. Second thing is they lost to Montana. That was absolutely abysmal. And that win against Stanford was just, and they almost lost to Arizona. That was the other thing I wanted to say. So just, that's just not going to do it, especially, again, if you're looking back just how many years ago was it? From 2016, 4 years ago, the Huskies were finishing up their third consecutive 10-win season. And from 2016 through 2018, they got invited to 3 straight New Year's 6 bowl games. So this team, it's not that far that this team was a very prominent player. And they actually played Alabama pretty tough in a national semifinal, whatever year that was. If there wasn't a pick 6, I believe, in the first half that kind of sparked Alabama's momentum, they probably wouldn't have won. And I think anybody who's saying that would have, that's an exaggeration. But they maybe could have hung and made it interesting for a bit. So you got to consider the downfall of the program. That's the second thing, very important to consider. And what's troubling is that this would be the first time UW hasn't made a bowl game in over a decade. That's a troubling statistic in its own right. And this team is talented. You see the defensive talent, offense, still some things need to come together. But they should be playing better, and that's for sure. That's for sure. And the main thing I wanted to end with here, parachuting off the article again, is for the second point here, again, the downfall of the program, is that, let me see, I just looked at the point. Did I already forget it? Before the season, essentially, there were like a minimum of 5 receivers who transferred out of the program, and maybe we should have seen that coming. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe the guac was in the talk, as one would say. So there was something clearly there, and I think that showed last Saturday in the incident where a lot of people would say Jimmy Lake struck a player. For me, I grew up playing basketball. I was not a part of football culture, so I am not here to comment on whether that was the right move or not. Me as a youth basketball coach, I can tell you I will damn sure never do that. But for me to judge that on the football lines at a high-level Division I context of football, I don't know the relationship between Lake and the player, so I don't know if I can make a clear incident. Football is a warrior sport. It's why we love to watch it. And for those of you who don't play, or for those of you who played, and you got this coming from a hooper, just mad respect. So I can't speak to what happens on the line. I don't know if that's unacceptable. But what I can tell you is that we need to draw a very, very straight line of what is acceptable, because I'm not going to go too deep into this. And as my first point says, yes, the dumb comment against Oregon. Second point, the downfall of UW's program. But just on a side note, there is probably some racial element here. I'm not going to go deeper than that, and I will leave it at that. That's one thing to consider. And on a lighter note, it is also fair to consider the what's the word I'm looking for? The geography of the situation. In the Northwest, in a place like Seattle where I grew up, that's probably not acceptable. In a place like Alabama, where they take football maybe a little bit more seriously, that may just be accepted. That doesn't make either place better or worse. It is just something to consider in the context of this situation. Those are kind of little side notes beside the point. Don't read too much into those, but just something to kind of think about. The third thing I want to say here is that we do need to set a very standard barrier of what's acceptable with physical contact on a player. If you look back, and all your Pac-12 guys will remember this, especially if you watch basketball. I think this is the best analogy I can give. Tom Izzo in the first 4 game, 2021, grabbed a player. Let's see, I got it in the notes here. He grabbed, he just grabbed the player, didn't write down the player's name, and the grab was strong enough to essentially turn around the player. I mean, he grabbed him by the elbow and by the elbow, and this is a Division I athlete, so it's strong enough to quickly grab him, turn him, and then after that, he ran after him. Let me pull up my notes. I don't want to disrespect Izzo in any way, but so what he did is he tugged his jersey, ran after him, and screamed in his face. And for Tom Izzo, this is not an isolated incident. This is kind of just feels like maybe a part of his normal coaching routine on the hardwood. Very interesting. But the thing that's what may be prominent here is that many of his former players, many maybe an exaggeration, a couple of his former players really strove out to defend him. Draymond Green was the first, and Draymond Green took to Twitter to defend the coach when this incident happened, and he said, and he posted, "Typical Michigan State exchange." So that right there tells you that this has happened many, many times. And Delvin Rowe, who played for Michigan State from 2018 through 2011, wrote on Twitter, "Haters gonna say that ain't a good look what is in Gabe Brown. I'm gonna tell you that's winning basketball." And those quotes came from the LA Times. May have been a tiny bit of like copying from the Delvin Rowe quote. So that came from the Los Angeles Times. 100% want to make sure we get that credit where it's due. But so you're looking at these two former players who came to rush their coach, and I just wonder if they'd have a different mindset had they lost more games. If you're winning and a coach is abusing you and yelling and you're the star on campus, probably a little bit easier to forget about it rather than if you're losing every game and the coach is berating you. So that is very interesting, and that's where we need to draw the line. That's where the line needs to be drawn. Winning and losing does not decide whether hitting a young athlete is okay. It doesn't. And if Tom Izzo can get away with it, I don't know why Jimmy Lake should be fired over this incident, over striking a player. Again, on football, I don't know if that is overstepping boundaries or not. Let's see if I have anything else from the notes. Just essentially kind of the way I closed the articles was that this is a fine ethical line. This won't be a direct quote. I'm kind of going to freestyle it a little bit here, but this is a fine ethical line, and it's a line that Lake appears to be on the wrong side of, and to defend his actions doesn't feel appropriate. I want to make that clear. I'm not defending striking a player. As a youth basketball coach, I would never, ever do that. I don't feel that that's right, so I want to make sure I'm not defending his actions. So to defend his actions doesn't feel appropriate, but maybe what we should all really consider is what we're mad about. And are we mad about the loss to Oregon and the comments in the comments against Oregon and the loss to Oregon? Are we mad about the losing record and the downfall in UW's program? Or are we mad about Jimmy Lake striking the player? So those are the things I wanted to really throw out there considering this incident. Now on to something a little bit lighter. I will be hopping into the quick previews. And so guys, I'd like to tell you that, that's very scary. My camera just went down. Still going. That's good. So guys, I'd like to tell you that essentially my goal for those of you who are new to the show is to have you out in 25 minutes. I think I failed at that every week. It usually ends up going 26 minutes. But in all seriousness, this is not going to be an hour-long show, a 2-hour show. I understand you guys got a live. I also understand that you guys can see the length of the video on YouTube, so I don't know why I'm wasting my time telling you this. It took me 10 episodes in to realize this. That's smart, Nick. But yeah, so my agenda is not to keep you here for really long. Now that I realize you guys can see the length of the video on YouTube, maybe I'm a genius. I've only been watching YouTube for 10 years. So anyways, on to our quick previews, guys. On to our quick previews. So first game we are looking at here, dun dun dun, is going to be Utah at Arizona. Not even really, it's hard to joke about Utah lately. They've just been playing so good. But so yeah, Utah shellacking of Stanford was physical football in its purest form. The Utes ran for 441 yards as a team, guys. 6 touchdowns and won the game by 45 points. For last week, for Arizona, last week's victory over COVID Cal was just really good feel story. Jed Fish does seem like a good guy. Obviously don't know him, so good to see him get that first win. Really happy for the kids. Obviously, that's what it's all about. It just felt good. It felt really good. They're not going to be that team that ends the conference with no conference wins. So really good feel-good story for Arizona. With that being said, Utah's coming in hot. They're sniffing a division title right now, gearing up to play what looks like Oregon. I guess we should wait to see what happens with the Oregon-Washington State this week. But bottom line is Utah is really gearing up here in the South to make a run. And again, just but listen to these stats from last week against Stanford. They ran for 441 yards as a team, 6 touchdowns, and won the game by 45 points. That is ridiculous. So I'm picking the Utes to win 38-17. After that, we got USC at Cal. We do not have USC at Cal because that game got canceled. Should I read anything here? One thing I do want to say, I'm not going to talk about USC this week. Obviously, I'm not going to do the game preview since it got canceled, or rescheduled. But the one thing I really want to say is that was a tough situation for Cal last week. I don't really understand the details. I haven't read like any deep dive articles, but from what I heard, they had like 21 players out, including Chase Garbers, and their loss to Arizona. And if Cal had won that game, they would have been 4-5 with a realistic shot to climb into a bowl game. And that would have been big for Wilcox. That would have been big for that program. And the loss just completely derailed their season. They're now 3-6, and they have to play absolutely perfect. And that's probably going to be really hard. I don't know their remaining schedule off the top of my head right now, but I know that's not favorable. And so that was just a really tough situation for Cal. Sometimes things like this happen. I don't know why, but again, Cal really looked like they were finding their rhythm. And I actually thought they may have snuck into a bowl game. So tough situation. And again, it always goes to show, I know there's so many players out, but Chase Garbers is such a phenomenal quarterback. And without him on the field, you guys see what the Golden Bears are. They're maybe comparable to Arizona, a little bit better. So yeah, USC I don't care about right now. Just play better, your USC. Stanford at Oregon State. Essentially, yeah, Oregon State's loss to Colorado really, I mean, I want to call it a head scratcher. It's surprising the fact that Brendan Lewis finally found his rhythm for the Buffs. I actually, in my quick preview, I said last week that Oregon State was comparable to Colorado talent-wise. I also said that Colorado completely didn't believe in themselves since this game was already over. So it goes to show how much I know. Just for the Beavs, tough loss. They can still, I believe, a victory against Stanford this week makes them bowl eligible. But you're looking at a team that just 2 or 3 weeks ago was looking for, a type of outside conference North Division type thing, and now North Division type thing. That is how you make your English teachers proud. But they're looking for a North Division run the North, and now they're scrapping for a bowl game. So they really need to take care of business against Stanford. Stanford now sucks. I don't need to look at my notes to tell you that. Stanford sucks. And David Shaw, he's going to be able to ride on what he did in the past for a while, but wow, they look terrible, guys. They look terrible. They're bad. So with that being said, I picked Oregon State. And I picked Oregon State 28-13. And yeah, it just, Oh, actually, one quick note I did want to say, I guess I did write down. The Beavers' remaining 2 games are against Arizona State and Oregon. So they have to kind of beat Stanford to lock in a bowl game. So this game is actually pretty important for them. Let's hope they get it done for the conference. And again, I'm picking them 28-13. Next game, Arizona State at Washington. And speaking of odd coaches, what an interesting year in the Pac-12, really. But again, so we got Arizona State at Washington. For this game, I don't really know what to say, honestly. I'm not sure what to make of it. Just such a weird situation regarding Jimmy Lake's suspension. Such a weird season from Arizona State. I mean, are we going to get the team that lost to the Cougs by like 28, fumbled the ball in like the first play, had like 3 first quarter turnovers? Or are we going to have the team that beat UCLA? How much was it by? They beat UCLA by 19. For Washington, how are they going to respond without Jimmy Lake? I think it may actually benefit them. I think this can be a really cool opportunity for the team in its totality to really step together. I heard that Sam Heward was actually splitting reps. He's the really notable 5-star backup to whatever that guy's name is, Dylan Morris. I'm starting to forget names if you're playing that bad. But so Sam Heward is starting to get a couple reps. Maybe we'll see him if Dylan Morris really stinks up the joint. So there's a lot of interesting things going on for the Huskies. Bottom line, they have to win this game or else their season is pretty much screwed. UW does not want to be 4-6. They need to make a bowl game. And like I said earlier, I believe they haven't missed a bowl game in over a decade. So losing to ASU puts them in a really tough spot. They still have to face the Cougs down the stretch, who look pretty solid. So who do I pick? I pick Washington 24-21. I just have not been sold on ASU, their inconsistency. I still think UW's defense is going to come to play, and I think that Jimmy Lake, again, being out may actually benefit the Huskies. Next game we got is Colorado at UCLA. Did the Buffs actually learn to play football last week? Nope. Still not sold on them. Do want to give Brendan Lewis his shine. He played terrific. I mean, he played terrific. Shocked everyone. Clearly shocked the Beavers. But I just don't see it happening again. I think that you're looking at the Bruins. I'm thinking their defense is a different animal. I love the way they blitz relentlessly. I don't think that Lewis has seen anything like this just yet. So I think it's just going to be a world of hurt. A lot of pressure on him. Maybe a couple more turnovers. But again, you never know. Maybe he has found his rhythm. I don't think that's going to happen by any means necessary. For the Bruins, I'm also curious to see if DTR should return. I haven't heard the official word. Looked at it yesterday. If he returns, I'm thinking the Bruins should cruise. If Garbers is back there, the other Garbers, then they may have struggled a little bit. I'm thinking DTR returns. I'm thinking that Chip Kelly knows how important this game is. Because if he loses, he could be the next guy out of LA. This is a team that, again, kind of parallel to Oregon State. A team that a lot of people maybe thought were going to win the division, making a nice run in the South early in the year, has completely fallen off. Not completely in the case of the Bruins, but this is a must-win game for them, again, against the Buffs. And I'm picking them 33-17, which should bring us to our game of the night, and that's going to be Washington State at Oregon State. And from a logical standpoint, if there is any team who would beat the Ducks, it would be the Cougars. I believe they've won, 4 out of the last 6 matchups. And the main reason why is they're actually one of the few Pac-12 teams with like a decent quarterback this year. Jaden DeLora kind of gives off a Brett Favre vibe with more speed. Obviously, Brett Favre was a NFLer, but you guys know what I'm saying. Just really, he's going to make some bad throws. He's going to make some great throws, but he is a gamer, and people believe in him. So that's going to give him a little bit of a chance against the Ducks. They also have 2 of the best receivers in the Pac-12, and Travell Harris and Calvin Jackson Jr. I don't know if individually they're the best receiver, but together they're really, really good. They're definitely top 5 for sure. They're very good. I don't want to undersell them, but they're definitely not a Drake London, if you catch my drift. You know what I'm saying? For the Ducks, essentially, yeah, just don't mess it up, guys. Don't duck it up, or better yet, you guys know I wrote that. That was too unsmooth. Better yet, bottom line, don't coog it, Ducks. Don't coog it. They haven't faced an explosive pass offense like this since the Ohio State game. That's my one concerning thing here for the number 3 team in the nation. Go Ducks. This is a big one. They really, really need to get it done. And I think that the fact that they've lost 4 of the last 6 to WSU, think that's going to be no trap game type mentality. And I think that Oregon gets it done and wins fairly comfortably 35-24. So that's going to do it for our quick previews. And now we're on to Bartlett's random topic of the day. Da, 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 da. How long are we going? 23 minutes, guys. Okay, getting a little better. So for Bartlett's random topic of the day, I want to talk about cherry tomatoes. No, but I may do that from time to time. I actually want to talk about reintroducing the mailbag questions back into the Nick Bartlett show. So for those of you who've been with me now for 2 or 3 years, I started off as a staff writer, another website, came over to Sport Act 12, did a bunch of things. It eventually evolved into mailbag questions when viewers would send in a question of their choosing to me, and then I'd answer it. And that is really how I got my start in terms of the podcasting game. And so I really want to incorporate that into the Nick Bartlett show. I think that we all collectively are a lot better than just me talking. And I really want to find a way to get you guys back involved into the show. That was one thing that was big for me. When I was able to talk about your guys' hometown and your guys' favorite food or whatever you guys wanted to ask me, it was really cool, obviously, alongside the football stuff. The one caveat I do want to throw out is don't send in stupid questions. This is still the Nick Bartlett show. We still have a lot to cover weekly, a game of the week usually, then followed by the quick previews and Bartlett's random topic of the days. So if the mailbag questions are good, I will make a quick, 5-minute, quick segment and bang it out in the show because I think that would be really, really cool. But again, I want to really reiterate, no stupid questions. Don't ask questions that you could just look up like the answer on YouTube. We got a lot of, and I think they're all great questions at the time for the mailbag question when that was 2 years ago. But I'd get questions like, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the Pac-12 of all time? You could type that into Google and figure that out yourself. You don't need me to tell you that answer. So come with a hot take, quick, relevant, fiery question. You know what I'm saying? And the other caveat I do want to throw out here is don't throw out, if you're coming with a stupid question, I'll read it if it's perfect. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be amazing. It's got to be quick. It's got to be simple. it's got to be fantastic. And yeah, and don't hit me with the Disney princess stuff, guys. There's another phenomenal Pac-12 podcast out there. I truly love their stuff. Sorry, publisher, if I'm not supposed to be promoting this. What's their name? But I actually love their stuff. But they will get your Disney princess needs covered, and they do a really awesome job. I'm laughing because it's so freaking good. So keep it original to this show. This is the Nick Bartlett Show. We're not trying to bite anyone else's style. So again, if you're coming with a stupid question, it has to be perfect. It has to be amazing, or else I will not read it. It will not get on the mailbag question. And I'm talking, it's like you're going to get one or two of these through a year. So it's got to be quick. It's got to be clean. It's got to be pristine. And again, I usually am going to want some good question regarding football and basketball once the basketball season really gets off into the swing of thing here. But make them good questions. Make them relevant questions to where we're at in the season. Make them timely. And make them interesting for you, for me, and for all of our viewers out here, because we're all better as a team. So I'm very excited to introduce the mailbag question segment again. And I believe that my publisher will be sending out some maybe in regards to the show later this week. If I misspoke, my bad, publisher. Oh yeah, and one last thing for Bartlett's Random Topic of the day. WSU Cougar basketball is back, baby. Woo! Woo! You guys know that's my squad, baby. When it comes to basketball coverage, I will, give you my fair unbiased takes, or biased, or excuse me, I think it's unbiased how you say it. But for now, I just want to throw out my excitement. I have the game taped against Alcorn State. I know they won by 18. I'm going to watch it tomorrow, Friday night, when I get a little bit of chance. So very excited for that. So that's going to do it for Bartlett's Random Topic of the Day. I'm sure we're running over our time like usual. But concluding and summarizing today's show, I gave you my take on the Jimmy Lake situation at Washington. I wanted to give you 3 really key points to consider. One, again, his comments before the Oregon game. He was already in a bad light for just some really questionable comments, ones that I would call just plain stupid. 2, he's not done a good job. Washington is at risk of missing their first bowl game in 10 years, and they're also currently sitting at 4-5, so just not looking good. And 3, we need to draw a clear ethical line in the sand for what is okay when it comes to striking a player. Again, as a youth basketball coach, I would never support that, stand that. But Tom Izzo does seem to be able to get away with it because he wins, and Jimmy Lake may not because he's losing. So does winning and losing decide whether striking a player is okay? I believe that's a completely unfair way to justify this. I'm not looking for the right words here. You guys know what I'm saying. I think it's stupid to rate it this way. You guys get what I'm saying. The words aren't coming out right. So that's what we had for today's show. We got 2 really good games coming up this week. Oregon WSU should be a lot of fun. Those matchups are always fun. Pac-12 after dark at its finest, and with only 2 or 3 weeks left in the season, something like that. This is a big one, big hurdle here for the Ducks, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun watching this one. And I think that UW, Arizona State, 2 very talented teams who may have underperformed, but there's still a lot of talent on the field, and should be a marvelous game to watch. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you for tuning in as always, and yee. Enjoy the games this weekend. Olive oil and hummus.